Team, we are back for day 2 of the demo. So left the boat at work overnight. I'm back this morning. Probably put in about 5 hours or so yesterday, and you kind of saw the progress that we got to there. I did want to show you just quickly, you've seen me use the multi-tool a lot, so I've been using these Diablo carbide tooth attachments. Obviously the one that I've been using on the multi-tool at the moment is the curved blade one, but I brought these in because I thought that they might give me a little bit more reach, and maybe a little bit more cleaner accessibility when it comes to getting into like the corners of different floor sections that I've been cutting out. The other one that I bought to have a crack at today was this little like diamond edged masonry wheel. It's a 100mm wheel, but I did the usual thing where I didn't check any of the bore or anything like that of the grinder. So it's made for a 4-inch grinder with a bigger diameter hole than what my grinder has. My 5-inch grinder has got a hole that big, but I've currently got the sanding pad on it, so the adapter to tie this onto it, I left it at home. But the general kind of gist of what I wanted to use this for is, you can see where my finger's running now, that's about as close as I wanted to go to the wall and the hull with the circular saw, and it's left like a little bit of a dag overhang. So I was hoping I could just chuck this on the 5-inch or the 4-inch and zip that up nice and in line with the hull, which would just make things a lot easier to grind because there wouldn't be as much material there. So that kind of sucks, but it's not a huge thing because the goal of prepping those outside stringers sections today is still doable, because there's only a bit of that bulk that I was just talking about up in the top corners that I have to get rid of, and the sander or some really aggressive flappy discs will fucking eat that away. So that's kind of what I'm going to do today, get the 7-inch out with the big sanding pad with the 36 grit, as well as the 5-inch with an aggressive flap disc on it. So yeah, with those tools in mind, the job for today is going to be, I think I'm going to cut this section of floor out and just have a look at that keel line stringer again, just to have a suss of what it looks like under there. It's the only one that was glassed properly, so it's in pretty good nick. But yeah, I will get that up. I might leave those 2 fuel tank bulkheads in just to give a little bit of sideways support with the stringers that I have left in. And I'm also going to cut out the cabin. Now, I said I was going to do that to the anchor well, but I might reassess that and just take the dash back to where you can see the bulkheads, just because it'll leave just a little bit of structural support up in the nose there, to protect that shear line. So kind of just what I've done with the timbers to brace that outside movement, to just kind of keep an extra layer of rigidity in the shape of the structure, because I don't want to have to try to re-guess what the manufacturer's shape of the hull was when it comes time to putting structure back into the boat, if that makes sense. So keep it as strong and as rigid as possible, only take out what I need to, put some structure back into it, and then come back to work and crack on with demoing the rest of it. One more thing that I might just do is, when I do cut the floor out, is I might take the rear of the boat, particularly these parts of the stringers, back to that bulkhead as well, which will just give me way more room at the back here to prep what I need to for the transom. Because if I were to turn the camera, just to have a look at that, is right now I've got about 100mm or so sanded back of the paint and all the other shit, and I want to get about another 50, so I want a good 150 of overlap of the final 2 layers of glass that we end up putting there. So I need to replicate that in the floor as well. fair bit cracked on. That is the dash out up to the bulkheads. Still plenty of structure going across the beam of the boat to kind of keep it all together. Moving down though, got all of that floor that was underneath the fuel tank up. Once again, we're kind of exposed to what looks like original work. This is just glassed over chop strand, so what we're kind of looking at is factory inside of the hull, which makes me think that this is also factory stringer, or at least once in its life was redone to a good standard. It's still going to have to be replaced though. Floor was nailed down, underside of the floor was really wet, so we know that there's water ingress everywhere. So yeah, that's this floor out. Go up to the back of the boat now and just remove that little bit of floor and the tail end of the stringers, and then put a good few hours of sanding in to prep all this kind of area. I will do a couple of test sands as well. You can see that there is a little bit of water ingress into the original chop strand. Where possible, we want to get as much of that out as possible, because that will always be a weak spot, even if it's, you know, more or less kind of stable or isolated into these little points. So we'll just kind of see. There's a big one there. We'll give that just a quick grind, and make sure that there's still a fair bit of glass to work with there. I plan on laying down a fair few extra layers along the keel line anyway. So I've got some woven at home that I really don't like using for like the console build and stuff like that. It was real shit to work with in finicky applications. So I will put a layer of chop down on the hull, and then a layer of that woven down, and really strengthen up the like just structural integrity of the hull, so that even if there is these little bits of water ingress in the existing, there is just going to be some glass down. I've also taken out a lot of weight, and the composite that I'm going to use means not all that weight is going to come back into the boat. So the floor was real heavy because it was about 5mm of glass and 6mm ply. I'm going to use a 10mm composite, which is going to be much lighter than that, and likewise the dashboard's not going to go back in, and the console probably weighs about as much as the dashboard and cabin did, but I think I'll be good for weight. So yeah, that's what we're up to. So you would have seen I just cut out the back, a little bit of flooring, the remnants of the bilge and the tail end of those stringers, just to prep me for the prep, but also just did this test patch here. I've just taken away the staining of the glass and make sure that there's plenty enough good glass underneath to still bond to when I go over the top. And I'm pretty confident, like even just with a real quick light sand with the 5-inch disc, just that one there, I was able to get the majority of all that water staining out. So the majority of it isn't water ingress into the glass, it is just staining that has kind of bled through and make it look worse than it is. So yeah, there should be plenty to clean up and adhere to. This though was the driest portion of the hull, but also the bit of the hull that would pull the most because it's the lowest point. So I mean, in theory I reckon it'll look worse up here, but it'll grind out better, if that makes sense. Now that's the majority of the floor bulkheads, and I guess like partitions in the substructure out, and I still have no idea how I got 80 litres of water out of the side pockets combined. You would have seen as I was grinding, I got through those glassed over bungs, which obviously, like, why would you have a system of drainage and then not use it? Like, you'd glass over so you can't use it. I don't know, pain in the ass. But so no idea where the ingress point is. I think then the goal for me when I go to put structure back in is to decide where I want watertight pockets and bulkhead them appropriately, and where I want there to be access for water but also good drainage for water. So something to think about going into the future. So I'll let the camera kind of just roll out. When I am doing a bit of sanding, I'll let it die. Right, so slight change of plans. I don't think I'm going to get as far as I want to today, because I've really kind of highlighted a couple of things, which I hope to show you if the light is any good. So first one is that this woven that was used in the previous repair is not a tight weave. And the problem when you get this this gauge of woven is that it constantly moves in its weave, and so it opens up like so. You should be able to see there quite an open weave compared to somewhere like here, which is a tight weave. Back to open. Opens up usually towards the edges, which is a massive pain in the ass when you're using it, and that's why I'm not going to use it for anything except laying straight down on the floor. So the problem with that is, in these loose weave areas, there's been water that's been able to get underneath it. So when you go to sand it off the hull, you think that you're making good progress, and then you hit a joint and you actually get little bits of water spray out. So it's allowed water in underneath these layers of woven, which I don't want to be there when I go to glass to, because if there's water underneath, then it's going to stop the adhesion or the bonding of my resin to the hull, wherever there is those little bits of water. So we need to get it all the way off. So the woven is going to have to come pretty much off, unless I get to a point where I absolutely know that it's got good adhesion, because as I'm sanding it, it more or less looks like the same bit of glass that is on the hull. Next problem that I'm noticing is that throughout the, I don't know, the construction phase or what, but, or potentially, you know, like maybe a repair in the past, is some portions of the hull, particularly around the planing strakes, have got a lot of bulk on them, and some of that bulk has got a fair bit of water in it as well. So if I kind of try and highlight right down here, you can see that I've ground a fair bit, but it looks dark underneath. That's water ingress into the matting that's underneath, so I need to get as much of that out as possible as well. It's not wet as such, but it has deteriorated the fiberglass like cloth or matting that is within the resin under there. There's plenty of bulk to take off though, like hard to kind of see the difference here, but that's original hull, that's bulk. So I've just been going along and take a bit off, tap test it, make sure it still sounds like there's heaps of thickness there, and kind of working through that. So getting to a point where I'm confident that the majority of it is gone, and any other gaps will just soak up resin and glass when I laminate back over the top of it. So at every stage, the base hull, the inside of the hull, looks in good nick. It's just whatever's been added over the top is not so much. So that's what we're going to look out for. So I think going forward in that regard, I'm going to need to go find something that has the control of being on the 4 or the 5 inch grinder, but is slightly more aggressive, so it takes off as much material as the 7 inch was. But yeah, I really need that control so that I'm not accidentally fucking putting a big burn through the hull. So I think from here, what I'm going to do is tidy up all the rubbish and stuff like that, and then I'm gonna look to get all the crap out of the back of the bilge area there, and then before I do leave work, I'll take the opportunity to prep the transom area how I want to prep the transom area, because that's a more like, I guess, focused job or separate job. So if I get the transom to a point where I can, because of shit weather or whatever, stay at home and tie it in and glass it in, then I'm not kind of just wasting time because I don't get the chance to come back in and do more of the demo. So if I can get that isolated job, which is prep the transom to go in, then I've always got something to fall back on, because even if it's raining, I can always just reverse the arse end of the boat into the garage, dry it all off, and glass in the transom should the weather be shit, so preventing me from coming in and doing anything else. So I think that's what I'm going to go and do now, start doing a bit of cleanup. So a bit of a forced hand change of plans now. I was going around and I was prepping the hull surface so that I'd be able to glass in the transom if I had to. like I mentioned, if the weather was shit or whatever and I couldn't come into work to continue any demo and stuff. Got a fair whack of it done. I'm looking for about 150 mils. The previous transom repair that they said got done, there's evidence that they really only tied it into the hull about 50 mil. And you could see that because the thickness of glass only came out, you know, 50, 60 mil, about 2 inch. So I'm going to try and triple that, so it's about 150, and should tie it in pretty strong. Now the other issue is